Hey, this is Dr. Michelle's Wild Warrior podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am very grateful for your tuning in and also just for your input and your feedback, for information that you want to hear or information that you don't agree with or that you do agree with. I think it's really important for us to work together as a community, and my goal and intention with doing podcasts is simply to offer my expertise and my opinion and hopefully filter some data through to you so that you can optimize your own health and improve your own well-being and be a better person in the world, so that you can offer your gifts to all of us that are so valuable. So today's podcast is titled Healthy Revolution, and I'm sure if you've been in tune with anything in the world of the last couple of months, you have obviously seen a lot of polarization and differences of opinion, experts speaking on behalf of large groups of people, which is good, and political issues, etc. And we just are in a time of great dispute, and a situation where we really need to unite and come together, in my opinion, and become harmonious again with each other and also with our beautiful planet that we are so fortunate to be graced to live upon. And I feel like, let me start back just with a little reminder of my training and my history, just so you can understand kind of where I'm coming from and my perspective on things. So I originally studied environmental science when I was an undergrad and got my Bachelor of Science degree in that. And then, and that was, I'm going to use the word renegade a couple times during this podcast because I do think it's apropos. It was a tough decision for me, and I really had to do a lot of soul searching and kind of come to some bravery to undergo that degree, mostly because I was really scared of studying science. I knew I was okay at it, but I hadn't really thrived in it before, and I recognized that in taking on a degree like that, I was going to have to really infuse myself in a lot of science, and that was scary to me. And so with some encouragement from friends and a few key players in my family, I was able to take that leap of faith after doing a lot of soul searching and just trying to see what my bigger picture goals were. And I never regretted that decision. It was an amazing experience, and science has become the thread of all the things I've loved in life and enjoyed studying, obviously. And it set me on a trajectory to be able to do my profession now, thankfully. And then after that, I did a lot of wilderness medicine. I was trained in my wilderness first responder, my EMT. I was in the midst of a paramedic program here in Oregon once I moved here at COCC, which was an incredible program. I was doing ride-alongs, and my ultimate goal was to be kind of the wilderness medical doctor on the top of or on the side of crazy mountains and help people with their high altitude injuries and other emergency medicine kind of things out in the field. And when I started my paramedic program, I started doing ride-alongs and also just, again, more soul searching, and kind of recognized that perhaps I wasn't quite cut out for the trauma and intensity of emergency medicine. And so, like things do in life, my career kind of found me, and I was in the midst of applying to medical schools all across the country in hopes to, like I said, become an emergency room physician. And turns of events and other things kind of introduced me to naturopathic medicine, and I decided to put my time and energy into studying something that has now become the love of my career life, for sure, and enrolled in a program up in Portland at the National University of Natural Medicine not really knowing what I was doing with that and not really sure about naturopathic medicine. I could barely even pronounce it when I first learned about it. And I've never looked back. It's been a really important part of my life, and certainly I have a huge passion for my career, and I'm grateful every day for what I get to do in my practice. So all of those things being said, though, again, back to the word renegade, I had to push against the norm, confront my own discomfort in studying something that was against the grain, and also diving in with this sense of wonder and curiosity into something that I really didn't know about and wasn't quite sure, but something inside of me just kind of spoke to the fact that I needed to learn this information. It was calling out to me, and instinctually I really trusted that that was the course that my career was going to take. And things have morphed and changed along the way as life does that and throws different things at us. So again, no regrets about any of it. It was such a good career path and has been an incredible learning process for me. I learned a lot in school, but of course with any kind of practice, we learn as we go. And so many of the gifts and pieces of information that I've gleaned along the way have come from my patients and from in actual practice, and just kind of watching everyone, grow and thrive or not, and learning from those mistakes that I've made, and also just kind of coming to this place of learning how to be humble in a way that I can learn new things and open my mind to new things, which was a hard process for me initially because I was super passionate about naturopathic medicine and Chinese medicine. And so I got a little dogmatic in the early stages, and because of that passion, because I truly believed in what I was doing. But a couple of humbling experiences for me, both personally with my own health in some situations and also in my own life, and then also with patients, have helped me kind of recognize the breadth of healthcare options that we have available to us, and that one way isn't necessarily right. So to bring that kind of full circle, I want to speak about a couple things that I'm not. So I am not anti-vaccine. I'm not anti-drugs. I'm not anti-Western medicine by any means. And, I recognize the value and the importance of many different types of medicine. I have Western medicine doctors in my family and in my circle of friends and in my colleague circles that I revere and respect and, consult with often. And so I really value all different types of practitioners. We are so fortunate to have many different types of practitioners available to us in our system. But some of the things I am, I'm a free thinker. I push against the grain. I encourage people to open their minds and have open, heartfelt, compassionate discussions, and also to trust their instincts and try and glean the information that will ultimately serve their own health in the best way and the health of their family and their communities as well. I'm pro unbiased research. I love to research and collect data. It is a little bit of a, maybe too much of a pastime or habit, I don't know. But I think research and data is really important in continuing to practice as a healthcare practitioner. And I recognize there's a lot of limitations. There's a lot of money behind certain research projects. There's a lot of research out there that's not even very good. And there's some that's excellent. And so pouring through all of that is challenging for all of us in the healthcare world, for sure. And especially now when so many things are a bit unknown, because we're dealing with something that I won't even use the word unprecedented because I don't actually think that's true. I think that we're just seeing it in a new form for our time. And so it feels unprecedented to us, but it's definitely, to circle back, viruses have been around and part of our genome and part of our virome. I like that term. They are part of our ecosystem and part of our bodies too, and they've been around forever, for eons at least, if we think big picture. And so they live harmoniously with us and we with them in most ideal situations. Now, I'm not trying to downplay the seriousness and the severity of SARS-CoV-2. It is very serious and has certainly caused a lot of, obviously loss of life and some major issues for many, many people, and many humans have suffered, and our communities have suffered. So I honor that and respect that, and I don't in any way, shape, or form mean to undermine or minimize that loss and tragedy. I just want to put things in kind of a different perspective than some of the things I've been hearing. So that is my goal today in speaking with you. So one of the things I try and do in my practice is to encourage my patients to be renegades for their own health. And my goal is often to empower other human beings with information and the autonomy to make decisions about their health, and the importance and almost obligation that they have to make themselves the healthiest version that they can possibly be, and always kind of progress toward that. And I try and do that in my own life so that I can hopefully lead by example with my own flaws and my own hardships and setbacks and learning curves, etc., that I try and pass along to my patients so that, perhaps we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. But it's more evident than ever that our own individual health is radiating out and affects everyone around us. And some of the big issues with SARS-CoV-2 and the difficult responses that people are having and the suffering that is happening is the underlying health of our population these days. And that's not to say that it's not affecting, healthy, normal people. It is, of course it is, but underlying conditions are making this situation so much worse. And what I'm seeing happening right now, it seems, from kind of the objective view that I'm trying to have, is that people are desperately waiting for the miracle, the knight in shining armor, to kind of come through and save them and rescue them and take away the fear and the anxiety and the potential health risks that are there. And yes, there are potentials for some medications and vaccines, etc., that might prove useful in this, and I'm hopeful for some of those things. But the ownership lies within you. And our health, it takes courage to be healthy. It takes advocacy for yourself. It takes effort, like a lot of effort and choice, and gathering the right information and surrounding yourself with people who are knowledgeable, trustworthy, compassionate, and that have your best interest, frankly, in their mind at all times. So my goal as a practitioner, and really I feel like my duty and my oath as a practitioner, are always what is in the best interest of my patient and their health. And if I don't have the answer, if I don't have the tools or capabilities, then I try and find somebody that I trust that does. If I am not sure, and perhaps I'm using some herbs that aren't necessarily proven for a certain thing, but I know their efficacy is there for other things, or they're safe. I try and explain that to my patients when they ask me, what is this, what should I expect? And I can say sometimes, like, I don't totally know. I know that it works in this situation, and I've seen it work with other people for certain things. Are you willing to, try it for a month and see how you feel, and keep track of things and let me know, and be in touch, obviously, if there's anything adverse. And that is, I know that's all anecdotal, but I see things shift for people when they're willing to kind of go out on a limb with their health. And obviously, I don't mean without safety involved, because that is important. But I think it's really, really validating to know that my patients feel safe enough to allow me to help them in a way that might be a little bit on the outskirts of, mainstream medicine. And honestly, like most of my colleagues as naturopaths, we are very used to being scrutinized, being, some of my patients lovingly call me a witch doctor, and I think that's really cute. But I'm definitely not an advocate for snake oil, and I really appreciate research and data, and knowing that these things are, have effectiveness in what I'm trying to use them for, to help my patients, whether it's nutritional recommendations, or exercise protocols, or nutraceuticals, or herbs, and acupuncture. All of those things are more challenging to research. With the exception maybe of exercise and some nutritional things, they're challenging to research because herbs work in a very holistic fashion, for lack of a better word. We can't just pull one constituent out and say, yes, that's the thing that is doing all the magic. It's not. Our bodies resonate with nature in a very unique and diversified manner, and it's really hard to know what specific thing in nature is, resonating with us and helping us come back to homeostasis and vitality. And that being said, with COVID and our current predicament, I really believe that nature and our environment and the suffering we are causing there as human beings is coming back kind of to not in a vicious way. It's just we are uncovering some things that are really out of balance. We're uncovering a lot of things that are out of balance in our systems, in our society, in our healthcare, in our economics, in our supply chain. Go on and on. In our food sourcing, in the toxicity of our environment. This virus is uncovering those things. It's shining light on those things. I don't think that it's a good thing. I think that it is a useful thing. I think that adversity always brings, in my opinion, always has the chance to bring resilience and foster resilience. And so if we learn from these kinds of experiences and step forward in a new way, then we are using this virus to shine light on some areas that were not acceptable anymore. And we're not promoting the health of our species and the health of our planet anymore. So again, ownership, we have to choose that for ourselves. We cannot just wait for the miracle to come out of the research, because, also what I'm concerned about, one of my big concerns, is that because there's so much fear and anxiety, and because there's this urgency to get back to, quote, regular life from before, which, a caveat, I don't think that will actually happen. It's going to be different. But because of that urgency, I am concerned that the medications, the vaccines that are being worked on are going to be fast-tracked in a way that doesn't give us adequate safety measures and safety testing. And so that is one of my biggest concerns. I don't believe that in a year and a half we can do, justice to the research that is required for such medications that we are going to inject into ourselves, honestly. And again, I'm not anti-vaccine. I am not anti-researching and moving forward on some therapeutics for this virus, but I also think that, we really need to take a step back and remember that there are many, many other options that we have right in front of us right here and now that can allow us to be healthier. But it takes some ownership and it takes some effort, like I mentioned. So, and it really takes a paradigm shift in our thinking. Because, like I said, we've lived among viruses for a long time. We've seen some other, pandemic style or epidemic style viruses come through. And our body's immune systems are smart and wise, and they know how to adapt to these things. Now, I'm not saying that's perfect, and I obviously want to minimize, if not eliminate, loss of life due to viruses. But another thing, just to consider, and again, these are kind of like pushing against the grain commentary and maybe sound a little rebellious. I definitely don't mean to sound trite about it or minimize any of the suffering and loss that has happened, because I value that and I respect that and I honor that in so many people's lives. In my life, I watched both of my parents die from cancer, and the process of death is beautifully reawakening and a rebirth. And unfortunately, I think so much of our society is based on fear and stress and concern of passing on. And I'm not saying that I don't value human life. Obviously, that is, that's why I'm a healthcare practitioner. I want people to be their healthiest selves and to be around as long as they are meant to be. But it was such a touching and beautiful experience to be with both of my parents along their journey, especially my mom. And the gift of that helped me to recognize that death isn't the scariest thing. It's just simply a part of our process of living. And I truly believe it is a birth into another realm. And I don't know what that is. No, I don't think anybody really can say. And even if it's not, again, I've mentioned this before, it's like, well, what does it matter as long as the journey is beautiful along the way? So reframing our thought patterns on death and dying and the importance of that part of living is really valuable. And what I'm seeing with the quarantine and shelter in place, stay home restrictions is that, and we're hearing this from frontline docs, is that people are dying alone. And that like right now just makes me, I just got chills down my spine because of the sadness and the grief of that. Nobody should have to leave this earth alone and their embodiment. They should not have to leave that in the fear and isolation that they are right now. And I understand what the purpose is about flattening the curve and staying home and isolation. I get that. I totally understand the process and not overwhelming our healthcare systems. Yes. I also am concerned about what it's doing to us as human beings and what it's doing to our social nature, and it's not sustainable. I'm sorry, but it's just not. And the economic fallout, we can talk about that till we're blue in the face. That's a whole different ballgame. But the psychosocial effects and the stressors that it's incurring on human bodies and human psyches is, in my opinion, getting to be that point of unacceptable. And the risk is outweighing the benefit, unfortunately, right now. And so I don't know the answer. I wish I could say. I mean, I think our governor here is doing a good job of, just taking the information and moving forward in a new and slower way. I think that's valuable, but I also, I think this needs to serve as a wake-up call of how we can better value each other, our communities, kind of come back to that like village living, and shifting the way we treat our planet, because viruses are present and they mutate, when they want to, and that's a natural law kind of thing. It's not like out to get us. I don't see it as that at all. I see it as kind of nature just doing her thing, and evolving and changing and adapting. And that's what we have to do too. And if we don't resonate with that force of nature, if we resist that part of ourselves that is meant to grow and adapt and meant to change and meant to be resilient and challenged, then we are going to create the perfect storm, which is what I think is happening right now. As a naturopath, I've always kind of resonated with the idea that the terrain is the most important thing. And the terrain of our earth, it has changed tremendously in the last 30, 40 years. We're using glyphosate in huge numbers and unimaginable, really. And the toxicity in our environment is very prevalent, and it's playing its toll on us in a way that we can hardly even know. I mean, there's good data on what it does to us, but also, just on other levels that are harder to study. I think it's playing a huge role in all of this. I think that our connection to each other has shifted a lot, and our communication skills have gotten, unfortunately, really polarized in the last, 10 or 20 years. And what I'm seeing right now, unfortunately, is there's kind of like 2 or 3 extremes, and those are the only places an individual is allowed to be. And I think that's really unfortunate. So if, say I don't agree 100% with what mainstream medicine is saying to do, and I speak up about it, then I'm either considered, a conspiracy theorist, or, ignorant, or trying to, minimize the virus, or all these different things, when really what I want to do is advocate for human beings and our planet. And those are the most important things. And also for free thinking. Like, we as humans are really innovative. Look at what we've done over the last couple centuries, It's mind-boggling. And if we suppress that free thinking because of fear, then what are we doing? Like, there's so many human beings with incredible gifts, incredible innovation skills, and they're on the outskirts of society, like pushing the boundaries and just being, like I said, innovative and resourceful and coming up with new ways of doing things. If we don't embrace that, obviously with some, yes, we got to find evidence on things. We got to look at the science of things. Yes, I agree with all of that. But we also need to think outside the box in some ways in order to come up with better solutions moving forward. And if we just, go back to the old ways of being, where our supply chain is completely outsourced and we're 100% disconnected from where food is grown, and We trust blindly that our food is handled well and not sprayed and not toxic before it even gets to our homes. Or we keep choosing terrible food that's not even, there's no food left in it really. It's just processed and not meant to be consumed. Or we keep choosing to take the easy way where we don't have to move our bodies, and we just kind of succumb to complacency. Then we aren't moving forward as a society. And honestly, people who are doing that are putting everybody's lives at risk in this, because we know that underlying conditions are, comorbidities in this disease in particular. And the biggest things we're seeing is cardiovascular preconditions, hypertension and heart disease and COPD, and strokes, etc. Like those risk factors. Diabetes is a big one. Obesity is a big one. Poor nutrition is, I just read an awesome study today, as a matter of fact, in Nature about, the effects of poor nutrition on this COVID experience that we're all having. It's really well written, and it alludes to the fact that quarantine is making people choose poorly in a lot of ways. Their eating patterns are off, their sleep is off, they're not exercising as much, they're inundated with the stressors and the news and the information, they're sitting too often. So we're kind of, and drinking too much, and we're kind of adding to that machine of, predisposition to health issues. And that doesn't just apply to SARS-CoV-2, it applies to all things in life. So let me put it this way. If you own or rent a home, your home is important to you, right? You wouldn't be cool with like a huge patch of mold just going crazy in one corner and bringing in like incredibly toxic things into your home for everybody to breathe all the time, or letting the roof just go, so that you have a gaping hole every time it snows. You wouldn't be okay with any of those things. Yet our bodies, which house our souls, we are cool with, giving them toxic exposure all the time and letting them just suffer. If we walked by somebody's house and it was just decrepit, and you'd be like, that's unfortunate, they really need to step that up. And I think that we are doing that all the time to our own bodies. Physical limitations aside, because there's always potential for movement. I've seen that time and again. There's people with disabilities who train at my gym and they're rocking it. It's awesome. I have patients who came from a place of chronic fatigue or situations with stress and anxiety where they could barely leave the home, and now they're thriving and doing awesome because they made choices that help their bodies and help them to be able to change. Everybody has that capability. I don't care how small the change is. It's your duty to take charge of your own health and do it with help. That's fine, please. I always advocate for people to choose a practitioner and to surround themselves with people that are going to help them make better decisions. So it's preventive, it's proactive, and it's community minded when we take charge of our individual health, because those things radiate around us to our, like the pebble in the pond idea, to our immediate community, to our families. By choosing healthier foods, we often buy locally, so we're supporting local businesses. We're becoming autonomous as communities, which is a good thing, because that means, that obviously economically that feeds back into our communities, but it also makes things more vibrant, and it raises the elevation and the resonance of the human beings in that population. So I encourage you to take charge of your individual health and just find new ways that you can up level. We can always be healthier. I mean, I'm always searching for ways to do better. I make mistakes. I have shortcomings. I drink some alcohol here and there. I, make choices about my food that always aren't in my best interest. So it's not about perfection. It's about the underlying theme and your goals in your life and how you want to be in this world. And if you are an active participant of society, then you're going to be more motivated to take charge of your own health so that you can be, participating in all the awesome things that you have available to you on this planet and in this lifetime, which is a lot of beautiful things for sure. So my I think that mindset is really important, and my daughter and I were talking yesterday, and she said to me, she's like, Mom, I really believe in manifesting. I think that it's similar to what people say is prayer. And she said, I think we can manifest things in our life and kind of draw that into our lives. But she said, but I also kind of keep my expectations low so that when things happen, then I'm pleasantly surprised. And I love that she was willing to tell me that, but I also really appreciate that perspective, because it doesn't mean that we shouldn't have high standards. It means that we keep in perspective, what we're wanting in life, and kind of it limits that victim mentality, I think, when we are able to hope and move toward things that we want in our lives without these grandiose expectations. Like, I think it's really good to kind of set the goal in a certain way and keep working toward that on a daily basis, but also to recognize that goal that you've kind of gotten into your mind and visualized isn't the specific thing that's going to come your way, right? Like when I went to naturopathic school and I envisioned myself being an acupuncturist, I had no idea what that looked like. And looking back, I would have never been able to visualize what I've been able to do with my practice in this way. And, as we look into the future for ourselves, for our health, for our planet, can we visualize things and help those things to manifest by taking daily action toward it? And I think that's really the key component is, being forgiving of yourself when you make mistakes. If you don't recycle something, or if you choose some food that maybe isn't in your best interest for that moment, or if you don't get enough sleep because you're watching a show or something, being compassionate and forgiving of yourself, but also recognizing like that the underlying theme and like the large percentage of your time you are working toward becoming healthier, becoming more vital, being a better contributor to society, and sharing your gifts and your resources with the rest of us, and thinking, how are my daily habits radiating out there to encourage and affect others, and to hopefully make our whole community stronger and better. So that being said, here's a couple of things that I think we can all start doing that I've been trying to do. Not always gracefully, like I said, it's certainly a journey and a learning experience, but plant some things. I mean, we've got more time. A lot of us are home more, and that's been one of the things that's been keeping me sane, is just being out in my yard more. And it's hard to grow stuff here in Central Oregon, so I'm trying to pick things that are, indigenous to this area and native, and that's been feeling really good, just to have a purpose. Like when I go outside in my yard, I check in on all my plants and water them and see what they're up to. I'm going to start a vegetable garden soon, and that's exciting to just know that I'm going to be able to, provide some nutritious foods for my family, and also just like allow my kids to watch that process and be a part of that process. shopping locally, we all know that's really helpful, and our small businesses, all of us, have definitely taken a big toll in this. And as things slowly start to reemerge, like, let's put that energy back into our communities, instead of, we've gotten in the habit of ordering some things online. I'm sure all of us have, because it's convenient and we haven't been able to do as much as we normally do. But now that things are slowly starting to open, like, let's just inject some of our, financial love into our communities locally. I think the more you get out in nature, the more you respect it and value it. And so not only is it a beneficial thing for you to do for your health, to be outside and move your body outside and be in the sunshine and the fresh air and, get out and get some space from the normal whatever, being in your house, sitting on your couch or whatever. It also helps us remember the beauty that's around us. I mean, this morning I was hiking with my dog and I saw a coyote take off. Luckily my dog only smelled him and didn't see it, because he probably would have followed it. But it was magical, and if I hadn't been out there, I wouldn't have seen that and wouldn't have had that cool experience, with a beautiful animal, wild animal out in nature. He gave me just a little showing of himself. It was really awesome. And we learn a lot from nature. We boost our circadian rhythm when we're out in nature. We, it calms our nervous systems down, and there's a lot of sympathetic nervous system stimulus right now, so we really need to downregulate that. Sleep, please, please, please. I say this often: guard your sleep like you would your own child. It's really an essential part of your healing every day. And so if we can tap into that and respect those hours and do the things you can to kind of down regulate your nervous system as you go to bed. I'm guilty of watching stuff before bed sometimes, but I try and usually just listen instead of watching, so that I'm not getting stimulated with all the light and all of that. And maybe listen to a little astrology or something crazy like I like to do before bed, or some music or something, instead of just getting inundated with news and other banter, or Facebook or whatever. Nourish your body. I mean, I read an incredible article today, as a matter of fact, about the use of IV vitamin C that they were using in China for COVID, and how important that is to combat the hypoxia and the hemoglobin issues we're seeing with this virus. And on that note, if you can optimize your cardiovascular function as a preventive, you're in way better shape if you get exposed. So why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you do interval training when you're out on the trail, or if you're on your elliptical or your bike or something, do some intervals that just help stimulate your heart and your cardiovascular function. Why wouldn't you do deep breathing exercises on a regular basis? There's some great herbs that are adaptogenic that help our oxygenation, especially the mushrooms. Some of the mushrooms like chaga and cordyceps help our oxygenation. So those are nutritive and food grade and are safe to take on a regular basis with the advice of a practitioner, of course, if you're not mine, my patient. And they optimize our ability to have good oxygenation, and that's one of the key issues with this virus is hypoxia. So be proactive about that. And obviously, I'm an advocate for moving your body well. So do different things, like get on the floor, get up and down off of the floor, roll around, crawl, lift something heavy, press something heavy, bend over and deadlift things properly, carry things around your yard, carry your soil and your bark mulch and things like that, and maybe carry them more than you need to. So if you have one location, just carry it back and forth, both sides of your shoulder or something. Just be proactive and utilize things that are available to you, even if you're not able to go to your gym. Hydrate. Being hydrated in this pandemic is probably one of the easiest things you can do to stay healthy, besides deep breathing. I think those two can just be bare bones, really simple and obvious, easy ways to optimize your health. And then relationships. I mean, I can't stress that enough. Surrounding yourself with people that are going to challenge you and support you and encourage you, help you grow, be your better self all the time. And if you're stuck in some negative relationships, like reevaluating what you need to either pull away from those or shift them in some way, whatever that looks like, whether it's, counseling or personal work or journaling or doing martial arts, like that had helped me in many of my relationships and continues to do so, whatever that looks like for you. And I think that, and lastly, calming the nervous system. I mentioned that a few times, but downregulating the fear and anxiety, because we're inundated with it. It becomes a tool for keeping us kind of complacent, I guess is the best word. And that movie, you remember that movie WALL-E? It's like a kid movie, but everybody was kind of stuck in like these floating chairs, and the society kind of wanted, or the powers that be wanted them to be just confined and ignorant and just incapacitated in some ways, so that they could just be lemmings essentially. And I don't want any of you to be lemmings. Please, like, free think, but also listen to people that you don't agree with and hear what they have to say. Like, really hear it, consider it, maybe look it up a little bit and research what they're saying, so you can see what resonates with you and what doesn't. And sometimes I feel like when we hear information that triggers us, it's sometimes mirroring something back to us that we are uncomfortable with in our own lives or in our own selves. And so that information, when we get triggered like that, can be useful and helpful for personal growth. And so even though it's uncomfortable, it's like, it's so much easier to just be on my, soapbox, which I have been known to do, and just stand there and bitch and complain about what I believe in and like hope that everybody just agrees with me. But my true friends and colleagues like challenge my belief systems too, and my kids do it often. And that's good, because getting shaken up like that makes us be more compassionate to where other people are coming from. And we owe that to each other and to ourselves, because that offers growth for sure. So all of that being said, I want you to sit with what resonates with you and be open to information. And the biggest takeaway from this is, please just take charge of your health. Maybe it's just one thing that you change for the next week and see how that goes, starting an exercise protocol, even if it's just doing like 20 squats a day, or getting outside for 20 minutes twice a day, or deep breathing, every morning for 1 minute. That's enough. That's a start, and that's progress. So I support you in that. I challenge you to do it. I want you to know that your health is my top priority, and the information that I provide here, I hope, is enlightening and not, if it's abrasive, then tell me. And my intention is simply like, let's help our world and our planet be better. Let's be loving and compassionate and open our lines of communication, instead of trying to kind of patent information and keep things, away from other countries or from each other. Or let's share that information and do it in such a way that is, vigorous debate, as opposed to polarized opposites that can't even hear each other. So keep yourself moving, move forward in all the ways that you were meant to do. And I am just sending everybody love and health and strength and compassion. And I know that we are uniting in this. And again, the virus is just shedding light on the areas where we need to heal. And I know that we can all do that together as a collective. And I wish you all well. Thank you for subscribing. Dr. Michelle's Wild Warrior podcast on YouTube. I'll have the videos posted, and then audio on Spotify, iTunes, and Buzzsprout website if you don't have either of the others. And be well, be strong, be healthy, love up on each other, and I will look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you.